With all due respect, that's a bunch of malarkey. This is a bunch of stuff, deal.
What does that mean, a bunch of stuff?
Well, it means it's simply inaccurate.
It's Irish.
Exactly, it is. We Irish call it malarkey.
Thanks for the translation.
No,
Okay.
We Irish call it malarkey.
You know what this is? Yeah, and I reserve this word for those rare instances when it's truly deserved. This is malarkey.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
Direct from the King Spring Studios in beautiful Smyrna, Georgia. This is a bunch of malarkey. Now, here's your host, the incredible Charlie McMahon.
Thank you to the legendary Scott Shannon, and thanks to all of you for tuning in to yet another episode of A Bunch of Malarkey. I'm sure you need a break from all the impeachment and political bullshit going on in Washington and around the country, so you came to the right place. And before we start, I just want to thank you all for getting A Bunch of Malarkey across that 400,000 download mark last week. I really appreciate all of your support, listenership, input, feedback, and voting for the Mutant of the Week, all that fun stuff. Again, can't do it without you, the listeners. And if you want to get in touch with the show, you can email me. We get a lot of emails, a bunch of malarkey podshow at gmail.com. That's a bunch of malarkey podshow at gmail.com. Give us a call. I know you fear phones nowadays, folks, except if you're texting. Well, you can text this number, but if you decide to call and leave us a voicemail, you're only going to get a voicemail. I'm not going to be answering the phone, inquiring, and drilling you with, like Barbara Walters with 1,000 questions. Want to leave a voicemail about something you heard on the show? Maybe you want to be a guest on the show? Call us at 706-406-8212, 706-406-8212. Well, winter is back here at the King Spring studio. Well, we never really had a winter, but it is snowing outside here in Georgia as I speak, which is pretty rare. They're making a big deal out of a couple of flurries coming down. But last week, well, during this past week, we had 75-degree weather, 75 degrees in February. Then we had a bout with wind, torrential rain, like 6 inches of rain, tornadoes in the area. Now we're back to winter, and then we're back to rain and warm temperatures. It's crazy. But yeah, climate change is a hoax, right, folks? But the place is just falling apart around us, the climate or the climate around the world, but it's normal, right? So anyway, so how many of you tuned in to the Super Bowl this past Sunday? I got to admit, I did not watch it. I came home, had a little something to do that night, and I came home with about 4 minutes left in the game, got to see the end of the game, but I missed the halftime show, but I did end up watching it on YouTube and other platforms. Now, there was this outrage and controversy over the halftime show, like an overreaction, especially from women who have kids, saying it wasn't kid-friendly, it wasn't a kid show, because Shakira and J-Lo were apparently shaking their booties and other crotch areas into the camera. Now, these same women last year were drooling and in heat over Maroon 5, Adam Levine with his shirt off, all tatted up. They couldn't get away from the screen. But this year, they're outraged. And a podcaster, now I know a little something about podcasting, right, folks? After 70 episodes, a podcaster said that dance routines filled with crotches and pole dancing are keeping him from getting into the kingdom of heaven. That's right, folks. The J-Lo Shakira halftime show at this past Sunday Super Bowl was just too hot for some people to handle. During his Past Assault podcast, Christian activist David Garbenmeyer took umbrage with the crotches and pole dancing displayed during the 15-minute choreographed spectacle, arguing that there was no warning that the peddled porn would be streaming into his living room, and whomever is responsible is keeping him from getting into that much-coveted kingdom of heaven. Could I go into a courtroom and say, viewing what you put on that screen put me in danger of hellfire, he said, asking his audience, are we going to protect our children or not? Now, let me interject for a minute. Whoever said the halftime show at the Super Bowl was a kid's show? If you're feeling like J-Lo and Shakira, whoever's out there, may act a little provocatively, put the kids out of the room. Tell him to load the dishwasher at halftime or put on the puppy bowl on the Animal Planet or something, folks. He went on to say, would that halftime show been rated PG? Were there any warnings that your 12-year-old son, whose hormones are just starting to operate, was there any warning that what he was going to see might cause him to get sexually excited? I got news for you, folks. Your 12-year-old boys and girls are looking at far worse things on the internet when you're not around than Shakira and J-Lo dancing on a pole at the Super Bowl. I got news for you, folks. They're looking at much worse things at school, on their phones, on their computers, laptops, tablets, whatever the hell you're giving them to keep them busy so you don't have to parent anymore. He wants to sue for $867 trillion. It's discriminatory against the values I have in my household. In a follow-up video posted to Facebook, he went into more detail about how serious he was with taking the legal action. He's looking for a lawyer to file a class action lawsuit against Pepsi, the NFL, his local cable company, for pandering pornography and contributing to the delinquency of a minor. He said he came to this decision after pondering all day about the spectacle of the Super Bowl halftime show. He detailed how he didn't watch the initial broadcast just because of past Super Bowls and wanted to block that spirit from entering his home. But after viewing a few clips, he had enough. I saw a lot of crotch shots, dare I say it, crotch shots. He reiterated the need for a warning. I tuned in to watch a football game. I didn't tune in to watch a porn show. I didn't tune in to see J-Lo's crotch. I didn't tune in to see her scratching or whatever she was doing down there. Now, you know these Christian people, they're always the ones getting caught in men's bathrooms, putting their foot under the stall, trying to do things in public restrooms. It's always these pure acting people that, now I'm not saying this guy in particular is, doing something, but it's always these outspoken Christian fanatics that always seem to be the ones doing acts or watching the porn or having child porn on their computers. It's always the ones that cry out against this stuff that are usually the worst offenders. So where do you stand on the Super Bowl halftime show? Did you find it offensive? Was it okay? Are you being a hypocrite? If you're a woman, did you love last year's? Were you drooling? And now this year, you found fault with it? You just might be a hypocrite then, ladies. I hate to tell you. But anyway, we're in that time of the year now. I just mentioned we're back to winter here. We're in that stretch now with any holidays. Well, we have Valentine's Day coming up, which we're going to get to in a whole bunch of malarkey here. It's going to be our main topic today, Valentine's Day and all the shenanigans that go on with it. But we're pretty much in a stretch now between Christmas and the New Year and like spring. It's that you get into the doldrums. You have to go to work every day. There's not really many holidays. You might get President's Day off. Some get MLK Day. But it's really that stretch between New Year's and that spring recess for Easter where you kind of just get worn out. You came off the highs of the holidays, getting a couple of weeks, half weeks of work, and you're in those doldrums. Now, there are a lot of people in the work doldrums around the country, and they're not feeling too motivated. Just like this postal worker in Virginia. This was something straight out of Seinfeld. A Virginia Postal Service worker who told officials he rented a storage unit to hide thousands of pieces of mail said he could not make time to deliver that mail is set to be sentenced next month, federal authorities said. Jason Dela Cruz told agents with the U.S. Postal Service, Office of Inspector General, that he felt pressured to deliver the mail but couldn't make time to finish his route. De La Cruz, who worked at the post office in Chesapeake, about 6 miles south of Norfolk, pleaded guilty in November to felony delay of mail by a postal employee. He faces a fine and up to 5 years in prison. Agents began investigating the mailman in May after a complaint that he was unloading his mail truck at a storage unit in Virginia Beach. The person said they took photos of De La Cruz putting the mail in the unit, according to a court document. When questioned by agents, De La Cruz said he began hiding mail in late 2018 and rented the $49 a month storage unit in February for the sole purpose of storing mail he could not deliver. De La Cruz told agents he intended to deliver the mail, but fell behind and was never able to do so. An attorney for him could not immediately be reached for comment. So there you got a worker who's hitting a wall, saying he can't get his route done, and just basically pulling a Newman on Seinfeld and putting his mail in a storage unit. Now, he's not the only one that's just mailing it in, so to speak. A New Jersey mayor, well, he admitted during an interview that he dropped his pants and passed out drunk at a party at the home of one of his employees. And now the incident is being investigated. An interview with Mahwah Mayor John Roth, who was elected in 2018, was posted on NorthJersey.com earlier this week. In that interview, Roth said he attended a house party hosted by one of his employees. While he was there, according to the report, he admits to drinking too much, taking his pants off and crawling into a bed. He then fell asleep. The incident quickly spread among city employees, according to the reports. Then an anonymous letter was circulated among city department leaders and council members demanding that Roth apologize. That's when he did the interview and admitted what he had done. I did go upstairs to bed, Roth told the news outlet. He also admitted that it was true that he took off his pants. Other people at the party then woke him up, and his wife took him home. He also noted he apologized to the employee. According to the anonymous letter, after you left, it was told at the party we needed to keep this among ourselves. The letter also demanded that if the mayor doesn't apologize publicly, he should resign. Your actions are a disgrace to the position of mayor, the letter said. Township Attorney Brian Campion is conducting the investigation into the incident. We are doing the required investigation in accordance with the workplace policy. Now, totally wrong what this guy did. He's the boss. He's new to the party. Took his pants off and passed out at an employee's house. Folks, I've seen a lot worse with house parties, with employees and coworkers. I could do a whole show. Maybe I will someday. Well, we've done Crazy Coworkers 1 and Crazy Coworkers 2, but that was about shit that went on in the workplace. I may have to do an Out of the Workplace Crazy Coworkers Volume 3, because I could put this story to shame of some of the stuff I've seen from coworkers, employees at parties, some that I've hosted and some that I've been to. So maybe we'll do that one day. So I'm not saying what this mayor did was appropriate, but let me tell you, I've seen a lot worse than that. So talking about just not paying attention, it's that time of the year. People want a break. They're, again, it's winter. You're just going to work every day. No end in sight until Easter. And you're just going through the motions. Now, a worker in La Vista, Nebraska, a bartender, and 2 patrons got sick after drinking cleaning solution that was improperly stored in a liquor bottle at a Nebraska movie theater. So they're just not paying attention. The Alamo Draft House serves drinks and screens movies. On Tuesday, a bartender grabbed the wrong bottle and poured a toxic cleaning solution that was stored in a liquor bottle into shot glasses for 2 women at the bar. One of the victims, Sarah Baker, was released from the hospital on Wednesday, but has since gone to see a doctor again. She said she has a sore throat and feels very lethargic. It is really scary because what kind of idiot runs a place and does something like this? Sarah Baker's husband, Chris Baker, said. Company officials said the employee was fired and additional retraining is taking place. This is a truly awful situation, and we have made contact with the guests so that we can do everything we can to make things right. We are sincerely sorry and have already put in place a thorough review to ensure that this was an isolated incident, and we firmly believe it was. Our company's health and safety procedures were clearly not followed, and the employee responsible has been terminated. We have initiated a full staff retraining to ensure that this never happens again. State law prohibits bars and restaurants from storing toxic substances in a way that could contaminate items meant for consumption. It's frightening, and it's a little bit shocking, but we can't just write it off to stuff happens. Someone neglected what they were doing or how they did it. Sarpy County Attorney Lee Polikoff told the media. We have to be suspicious, I think, of any victimization when anybody receives some harm, especially public harm. It does not make any sense, but it's not an accident. The Nebraska Liquor Commission is also investigating. Now, this is one of the basic things you learn when you serve food or drink. I manage places that did. Cleaning solutions stay in the cleaning solution bottles, not generic bottles, clearly marked in the biggest letters you can what those cleaning solutions are. You never put them in a bottle, a liquor bottle, or other food container where it could be confused for food. Now, on the other hand, when these ladies went to drink, now when you put a shot glass up to your mouth to take a shot, unless you are already drunk, you could smell what the liquor is. You know, that peppermint schnapps or fire water or any of these Jägermeister. You know what that shit smells like. So I don't know how they didn't decipher that cleaning solution smell right before they took the shot. I'm not blaming the victims here, but I'm just saying it's got to be, 90% of the blame is on the establishment. Well, a little bit's got to go to the person. When you're putting something up to your lips, you got to smell that. Wait, this smells like Windex or some other cleaning solution. I know I would, unless I was drunk, of course. So who knows if they will lick it up at the movie theater? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate there, but you would think you could smell a cleaning solution before you took a swig of it. But again, you don't store cleaning solutions in liquor bottles near a bar and expect shit not to happen. So one more of these stories, folks, where an employee just didn't give a shit or mailed it in or whatever. This one's pretty comical. A Connecticut gas station worker's first shift was a busy one. Police said he stole thousands of dollars in cash and merchandise, as well as the employment file that contained his name. In late January, the manager at a Go On gas station in Hamden checked his store cameras using an app on his phone. The manager then called police to report that the new overnight employee had vanished after swiping cash, lottery tickets, 89 boxes of cigarettes, and the personnel file. Police estimated he stole about $17,183 in total. With no record of the man's name, Hamden police were hopeful anyone with information about the worker would call the department. Now, this guy was slick. Yeah, he's on camera, but he actually stole the personnel file, so they wouldn't know his name. Oh, man. So you got to say, some of these criminals are pretty slick. He knew. Now, you would think they have a record of this someplace else other than in a file cabinet in the gas station, but apparently that's how this gas station does business and conducts personnel and stores files. So he was smart enough to remove the file, but he is on video stealing the shit, and I guess it's just a matter of time before they catch him. So let's transition into our favorite segment of the show.
A bunch of malarkey. Mutant of the week. Now here's Charlie.
So last week, in an absolute landslide, the parking lot pooper, the woman who pooped in a sporting goods parking lot about 10 times and got caught, she trounced the McDonald's masquerader, the guy who masqueraded as a McDonald's employee in one of their uniforms and cleaned out a cash register in a couple of locations. It was 88 to 12%. So an absolute landslide, which I thought it was going to be for the parking lot pooper. Now, anytime poop is involved or people shitting or pissing in public, usually gets the vote. So I was not surprised. I thought the parking lot pooper was going to win big. So she is our mutant of the week until one of these two nominees takes the crown from the parking lot pooper. Let's go out to Albuquerque. I made a wrong turn and I ended up in Albuquerque. Wasn't that Bugs Bunny? Albuquerque. Anyway, going to Albuquerque, which isn't normally a big city or state of New Mexico for mutants, but we got one this week. A man was arrested during a prostitution sting in the southeast section of Albuquerque on Tuesday. According to the criminal complaint, 36-year-old Dominic Calderon rode a bicycle up to an undercover APD officer posing as a prostitute in the area of Central and San Pablo. The complaint states after agreeing on terms and price, Calderon asked for the officer's phone number because he wasn't going to have enough money until Friday. That's when the undercover officer noticed Calderon was carrying a to-go bag from Chili's. The officer asked what was in it, and Calderon told her it was a hamburger. The officer then told Calderon her fee could be the burger. Calderon agreed and was arrested. After officers ran Calderon's information, they found he was a sex offender on probation. Police say Calderon's status was confirmed by the probation office, and his probation was revoked and upgraded to a felony warrant. Calderon's arrest is one of 11 different prostitution arrests, all made on January 28th along Central Avenue. The hamburger was tagged into evidence. So let's call him the hoe-hustling hamburglar, the guy who agreed to pay a prostitute or an undercover police prostitute with a hamburger. So the hoe-hustling hamburglar is our first mutant of the week out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. For our second mutant nominee, we got to go up to Pennsylvania. where the manager of a Long John Silver's restaurant in Pennsylvania was arrested after police said she added her boyfriend to the payroll and stole nearly $50,000. Her boyfriend was in prison. The suspect, Michelle Kruinski, was in charge of multiple restaurants. The checks reportedly went directly to her boyfriend, who never set foot inside any of the restaurants. The restaurant chain discovered that a man named Christopher Sweet had been added to the payroll despite never working at Long John Silver's. She was able to hire and fire, said Max Whitlinger with Butler Township Police. Love makes you do crazy things, Whitlinger said. Butler Township Police said that Kowinski met Sweet in state prison. After she got her job at Long John Silver, she stole more than $50,000 that ended up going to Sweet, police said. Police in Beaver County are investigating Kowinski on similar charges. Officers said that they were able to track down her boyfriend, who is out on parole in Philadelphia. He will be brought back to Butler County to face the charges. So let's call her the parolee payroller. The parolee payroller out of Pennsylvania. A lot of P's there. So we got the whole hustling hamburglar against the parolee payroller. Now, where do you vote for the Mutant of the Week? Come on, you know. Go to our Facebook page, A Bunch of Malarkey. Like the page. Of course you got to like the page. And tell your friends to like the page. You can go to the Facebook page, just copy the link, put it on your Facebook page, and say, go like this page, you son of a bitches. Anyway, but the poll goes up. I've been putting it up Monday nights now. Gives you an extra time to vote. Ends on Saturday, late morning, midday. 5.5 full days to vote. No excuse not to vote. No excuse not to share it. Make your voices heard. This week, the whole hustling hamburger, the parolee payroller. Poll goes up Monday night. Ends on Saturday, 5 full days. So, you know, this last Mutant of the Week nominee, the cop said, love makes you do crazy things. Now, love is in the air, folks, whether you like it or not. Valentine's Day is coming. It's on Friday. And there's nothing you can do about it, whether you love it or hate it. Now, I did put up a poll earlier in the week about Valentine's Day. And I asked you guys whether you felt Valentine's Day was a fake holiday, a Hallmark holiday just to generate revenue, or if it was a real, true love holiday. And in a landslide, even bigger than the parking lot pooper one, in a 92 to 8% margin, you all said, it's a bullshit holiday. It's just a money-making corporate bullshit holiday. And I couldn't agree more. Now, whether we like it or not, Valentine's Day is coming up. And at this point, you might be looking at your friends around you and their plans for the big day, feeling pressure that you might have to do something. And you might be scrambling, thinking about a last-minute gift or what you can do to impress your significant other, your partner, your spouse. Here's what I need you to do, folks. Take a deep breath, relax, and don't worry about celebrating this stupid, stupid holiday. Now, Valentine's Day is basically an exercise in exploiting the uncertainty that comes with relationships, and particularly new ones. Now, if you're not, it's a totally different ballgame if you're married compared to whether you're just starting to date someone or whatnot. You're so scared of screwing up on the vague chance that your significant other, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your partner really, really, really wants you to celebrate Valentine's Day, that you're willing to splash out any amount of cash, whatever's handy, giving it to whoever is willing to take advantage of the lack of uncertainty in your relationship and make a quick buck off of you, the sucker out there. You don't believe me, folks? Well, last year, I don't remember who it was, someone did a survey about this and discovered that in New York City, restaurants increased the cost of a meal for two by up to $275 on Valentine's Day. So ask yourself this question right now. Come Friday, the 14th, this coming Friday, do you really want to be among those suckers paying it, sitting in a room full of people that are just trying too hard? To illustrate how absurd this day has become, it's estimated that the United States spends just under $20 billion, with a B, every year on Valentine's Day. If you want to compare that, that's about 4 times more than the government spends fighting cancer annually. Valentine's Day is far less about true love than it is about being a retail orgy between the 3 long months between Christmas and, say, St. Patrick's Day or Easter. We need something in between, and that's why the rose-colored abomination that we call Valentine's Day came to be. So not to sound like a communist here, but none of this would actually be a problem if what you were getting in return was good. But when you think about it, virtually every Valentine's Day cliche is pure awful. A $120 bouquet of roses, a $200 five mediocre course dinner in a room full of Marvin Gaye, Let's Get It On playing in the background and people trying too hard. Your ski chalet weekend that costs an extra $400 because a bottle of cheap bubbly is included and rose petals scattered over the bed. Now, do you want to have sex in a bed full of rose petals anyway? I think you'd find yourself picking them out of every crevice in your body afterwards. Now, the most offensive thing about the whole Valentine's Day is the idea that you, the listener listening to this podcast right now, somehow still feels you need to do this. Your partner, your spouse, your significant other is expecting this of you, ready to toss your ass to the curb if you fail in this, your most crucial task. Here's a tip. If he or she is with you right now, it's probably because they like you, or in most cases love you if you're married or in a very long-term committed relationship. You're not going to have irreparably sabotage your relationship by not falling for one of these Valentine's Day gimmicks. One of the tricks to a good relationship is not trying too hard, folks, and letting yourself be yourself. It also generally doesn't involve forcing her or him into a situation where your partner is going to feel like he or she needs to act like they are blown away by this predictable nonsense and they're going to put out because you shelled out. You're more likely to do harm than good to your relationship. Both of you will be faking it, and both of you will know it. But by now, you probably get where I'm going. Valentine's Day, to me, is just an awful holiday. And to a lot of you, 92% of you agree, we need to kill it. Kill it with fire. But you may be saying to yourself, but surely I can't possibly afford to miss Valentine's Day. Well, I've got news for you. You're already missing plenty of things as it stands. There's even a more nefarious trend consisting of Valentine's week, a whole week of this shit, mostly concentrated in India, but slowly spreading worldwide like the coronavirus. It consists of 7 days from February 7th to February 14th. You got Rose Day, you got Propose Day, you got Chocolate Day, Teddy Day, Promise Day, Hug Day, Kiss Day, and then Valentine's Day. So when you think about it, you're already ignoring the rest of Valentine's week. Just take that extra step and ignore the last day. You don't need this crap in your life. Relationships are full of rules you're supposed to buy into. Sex on the third date, Netflix and chill, bouquets of roses, and the truth is you're far better off coming up with an idea that's all your own, on a day all your own, that you think will suit your significant other well, and investing the time and effort into that instead of this forced holiday. Making them feel truly special, shockingly enough, doesn't mean buying into the same crap that everybody around you is doing. So what are the main reasons people despise? The 92% of us in the poll, why do we despise Valentine's Day? Why do the vast majority of people despise? The majority of my poll. I don't know what the number is. I couldn't find the number for people. I don't think there is a poll for people who like and hate Valentine's Day. So what are the main reasons that the ones who do hate Valentine's Day hate Valentine's Day? Number one, you get penalized if you're not in a relationship. Let's face it, nothing is worse than being alone on Valentine's Day. At least that's what our society tells us. Several studies suggest that being alone on Valentine's Day can cause depression in both teenagers and adults. Now, I have to say, and I have to go back, and I have people always say, especially when it comes to music and childhood memories and a lot of memories, I remember everything. Now, if you go back in my life to 1990, that was 30 years ago, folks, 30 Valentine's Days ago, there's only technically 2 Valentine's Days that I've been single. One was in the year 2000. I was kind of in between relationships, and one was in 2006. At that point, I had just started dating someone for about a month, and we weren't serious. So I still consider myself somewhat single that year. But for the other 28 Valentine's Days, I've been in a relationship or married. So I've only been single 2 Valentine's Days since I'm 19, 20 years old. 19. So I don't really know what it's like to be single really on Valentine's Day. But I can remember those 2 Valentine's Days were some of the best Valentine's Days. There was no pressure. I didn't feel depressed. I felt relief, maybe because of all the years I was in a relationship. I don't think there's anything wrong with being single. Nothing wrong with being married either or in a relationship, but you shouldn't feel lonely or depressed just because you are alone on Valentine's Day. But folks, you get penalized if you're in a relationship. That's number 2. You also get penalized on Valentine's Day if you are in a relationship. Even if you're married 15 years, many still feel the need and the stress to make something extravagant happen on Valentine's Day. The pressure doesn't come from one's partner, but from everyone else who asks you what you're doing with your wife, your husband on Valentine's Day. And they ask you, what big surprise are you planning for so-and-so this year, your wife or husband, insert the name there. How many roses is she getting this year? Oh, you know girls love diamonds. Are you going to give her some? And on and on and on. And the second you say to someone that you're not doing anything big, you're doing something low-key, people roll their eyes like you're cheap or you don't love your wife or your husband or, my wife and I don't think we've done anything significant for Valentine's Day. I don't even remember. Even when we first started dating, neither one of us were really big into Valentine's Day. This year, we just so happened to have tickets to a concert for someone I've never seen Tony Bennett in concert. And he's coming around. We're going with some friends. Now, it just so happens to land on Valentine's Day. Otherwise, we would probably get some takeout and hang out. It's just another day to us. There's more important, more significant days for us. Anniversary, the day we went on our first date, that kind of stuff that's more special to us, not what society's forcing us to do. Now, the third reason is people make these wild purchases they really can't afford. Guess what the most profitable time of the year for matchmakers and online dating sites are? You got it, Valentine's Day or the weeks leading up to Valentine's Day. People feel they need to be with someone on that day. It drives them a desperation on the part of many. And as a result, price is no longer important. So they're willing to spend whatever on these matchmaking sites and whatever. Now, number 4 is what I touched on. We're all getting price gouged, folks. Men, women, I know women do nice things for their husbands and boyfriends too. So do men with the roses and the chocolate and the dinner. We're getting gouged, folks. And we're all willing participants in this. Why would someone in their right mind pay $400 or $500 for a couple's dinner, $150 for flowers that are going to die in a week, $75 for a box of chocolate? Never. Except on Valentine's Day. Nearly every business inflates their prices on Valentine's Day. And the crazy thing that we all know about this artificial inflation, and the people still line up to get ripped off. You all know you're getting ripped off, and you still line up for it. Why not go out the next night? Celebrate Valentine's Day on Saturday this year. Why fall into that trap? Sit in a crowded restaurant. You're eating at 9 o'clock at night because you got to. That's the thing. I'll probably get to that on this list. I forget what I put on the list, but you're going to be eating at 9 o'clock at night because unless you make the reservation a month in advance. Now, who's thinking about this shit? Right, coming right off the holidays, you just spent a shitload of money, gifts. Now, come the beginning of January, you got to start thinking about Valentine's Day because you got to get a reservation in unless you want to be eating at 9, 10 o'clock at night. So you got to do this shit right. You're coming right off the holidays. The tree, you just take the tree down and you're a month out from Valentine's Day and you have to start thinking about this stuff already. It's a scam, folks, and you're falling for it. Anyway, Valentine's Day, the fifth reason why many people hate Valentine's Day. I know there's a few that love it and we're going to get to you. It prematurely forces people in or out of relationships. You got that right, folks. The days leading up to Valentine's Day and the days right after are some of the busiest in the romance game. It probably doesn't come as a surprise that the days leading up to and on Valentine's Day are the most popular for proposals and exclusive dating commitments. Will you be mine? Care to guess what the days following Valentine's Day are the most popular for? That's right. Breakups, because you didn't meet those expectations, guys or girls. I'm not saying these couples wouldn't have eventually broken up or wouldn't have eventually committed to each other, the ones that did so right before Valentine's Day. But the Valentine's Day season brings about feelings of do or die and ultimatums, and that never can be helpful to a budding relationship. Now, I'm trying to think in my time, back in my day when I was sipping country time lemonade and swinging on that porch swing, folks. Now I'm trying to think in my life. I know one time I was in like a like a budding, I guess you could say, without being too cheesy, or a new relationship. I think that was like the year before I met my wife. I was dating this girl, and I was only seeing her for about a month before Valentine's Day. And I wasn't ready to, we only ended up dating for 4 or 5 months anyway, but I wasn't ready to go full throttle on Valentine's Day, and she was taken aback by it. But I told her, I told her I was working late on Valentine's Day or whatnot, and didn't want to give the wrong idea. We're only dating a few weeks, and I wasn't ready to make that commitment yet and do the whole Valentine's thing. So I told her I had to work overtime or some bullshit, and ended up going home and just hanging out by myself. And I think that was the only time, if I can remember correctly, that I was just in a new relationship. So if you're in a new relationship, a month or two old, maybe you met at Christmas time, that could be the Valentine's Day. Like, it's make or break, folks. You have to, and it kind of pushes you in one direction or the other, and it's not good. So don't get into any relationships within 4 months as Valentine's approaching, because you got some tough decisions to make when the 14th of February rolls around. Now, I think kids are indoctrinated into this shit way too young. You got 3, 4, 5, 6-year-olds that are excited about Valentine's Day, almost too much so. And what do they know about it? All they know is you give and get gifts and cards, and this is what they know. That's it. Parents need to step in. But it's hard. It's really hard when the country wraps up the Christmas holidays and it feels almost immediately after, like, we need a holiday. The stores start inundating you with Valentine's Day the week after Christmas. Now, it's just corporate programming at its best, And I remember being a kid in elementary school, late 70s, early 80s, and getting that box of Valentines. My mother always tried to make Valentine's Day special for us, my brother, my sister, and I. She would make, believe it or not, a heart-shaped meatloaf. She would bake a cake. We would have little things at the house, candies and stuff. But my mother always bought those boxes of Valentines and made us fill them out and bring them to school. Now, it wasn't just for the girl you might have had a crush on in the 3rd grade. My mother thought all the girls in the class should get a Valentine's card. So I would have to sit the night before Valentine's Day, or if Valentine's Day fell on a Monday, I'd do it over the weekend, and write out a Valentine to every girl in the class so nobody would feel left out. And then the awkwardness of being 9 years old and handing these out to girls that maybe I really didn't like, not in that type of way, but maybe we just never talked, and it felt forced even back then. I think that's probably why I'm not a big Valentine's Day fan, because it felt forced even as a kid. Now you probably can't do that. You hand out Valentines to a girl, you're 8 years old, they're calling you Weinstein. I don't know what happens nowadays if kids are still doing this. You parents chime in on the Facebook page or Instagram. Are kids still handing out these Valentines? Because I know I felt forced every year into handing these things out as a 9-year-old. It's embarrassing. You go up to the girl or leave it on their desk. It was just embarrassing. Then the girl thinks you like them. A whole fucking disaster ensues. So I don't know if kids are still doing that in this climate of, don't touch anybody, don't hug anybody. I don't know if Valentines are offensive, so maybe you guys can chime in. I don't know what happens nowadays with those Valentines. Now, another reason the people who hate Valentine's Day is there is an inappropriate focus on gifts. Love takes on many forms. We give and receive love in many ways. But if someone was dropped from outer space onto this planet on Valentine's Day, you would think love is all about gifts and nothing else. Buy this, buy this, buy this, buy that. The theme everywhere we go is, show her you love her by sending this, all those commercials, So it should be more about love than what you're giving and getting, like quality time and paying attention to people. Staying off your phone, my wife would say, stay off your phone for one night. That would thrill her. Or don't take up your whole week planning a podcast. That would be a great Valentine's Day for my wife. Little things like that. I help around the house. I cook. I clean. I do all that kind of stuff. She has no complaints there. But it's about other shit that I do. If I stayed off my phone for 2 nights, that would be the best Valentine's Day present she could get. Or if I didn't spend all week neurotic over this podcast, things of that nature, she'd be happy. Now, these conversation hearts, folks, these little chalk-like things with Be Mine, all these different things on it, they taste like drywall, Tums, plaster, whatever you want to call it. That's another reason to hate Valentine's Day in and of itself. These cheesy $8 Hallmark cards. You go to the Hallmark card, $8 to say Happy Valentine's Day to somebody. Better off making a homemade card. Get some construction paper. You got a printer. Do it that way. But $8. And it doesn't cover every situation, folks. If you're married, it's covered. If you're in a long-term relationship and you're in love, covered. But what about casual dating? What about like a friends with benefits situation or a hookup buddy? There's no card that says, I really like you, but I'm not quite at love yet. So it's awkward trying to pick out a card. If you're married, it's easy. Long-term relationship, pretty easy. But when it's that in-between where you're just getting to know somebody, there's no card for that. Those bad Valentine's Day sitcom episodes and shows that stands on its own. The commercials, nothing says I love you. Like, fill in the blank, folks. A ring, a box of chocolates, whatever. So you got all those commercials. There's no way to escape it. There really isn't any way to escape it. They start drilling you the week after Christmas, and it goes right until Valentine's Day, and then we're going to be looking at Cadbury Easter eggs within the next week or so. There's no bear, stuffed bear, that says, thanks for being a great hookup buddy or booty call. It kind of ties in with the greeting card. So you have that friend you get together with if you're single, but there's really no card. You want to honor them in some way, man or woman, male or female, either direction. But there's no bear that says thanks for being a great booty call. Again, you just started to see someone. It puts you in a position to wonder, where is this relationship going, and where are we at now? Are we serious? Are we going to make it? You don't know what the hell's going on. It makes you take stock in that. Again, dinner reservations a month in advance. You're coming off Christmas. You got to think of this shit. You're hangry. You're eating dinner at 9 p.m. again because you didn't get that primo reservation. Now, you've been together a long time. You've already been there and done that. You've gotten each other everything possible. What more is there to do on Valentine's Day? It's another reason people hate Valentine's Day. But here's one. You're a couple. You've been together a long time. You look at each other and say, yeah, we don't have to go out on Valentine's Day. It's too crowded, too bullshit. We'll go out another night. Let's not do anything. And then one person caves and buys the other person something. And then you feel like a piece of shit, whether you're the guy or the girl. So it's that, let's not do anything, and then one person caves. If you say you're not doing anything, stick to it. Don't make the other person feel like a piece of shit. What else do we got here? The pre-lingerie anxiety and workouts. That goes for guys, too. They want to get in that nice little whatever the hell you call it. So you're stressed out about how you look. You're coming off Christmas. The resolutions you gave up on. You're not quite looking or feeling your best. And you got to wonder what you look like in some lingerie. What about those hungry hyena ladies at the office that when a florist shows up, they all run screaming, thinking the flowers are for them, and wooing over the flowers somebody at the office guy? You got to deal with that shit on Valentine's Day, too, if you're a woman. Or if you're a man on the end that maybe has flowers for your wife waiting at home, but didn't send them to her office, and then she comes home after all, or half the office women got flowers sent to them that they have to lug home and try not to spill the water and all that bullshit, that you didn't send the flowers to the office. So you got to deal with that, too. Eating chocolate-covered strawberries, folks. Movies, television, they make it seem so sexy. You ever try eating a chocolate-covered strawberry? It isn't as sexy as it's portrayed. So another reason to hate Valentine's Day. If you're single, you wish you were in a relationship. Well, at least for a day. If you're in a relationship, you wish you were single. That's what Valentine's makes us do, folks. So those are the reasons why the people who don't like Valentine's Day don't like Valentine's Day. Now, there's always a flip side, folks. I'm not going to forget about you people. The people who actually like Valentine's Day. Those people feel that when people say, I hate Valentine's Day, what we often mean is, I hate being forced to take inventory of the quality and volume of the love in my life. Might be something to that. Makes you think about things. They might also argue that those who call Valentine's Day a hollow corporate invention, who said that, are quick to disparage anyone who buys such gifts as superficial and thoughtless. I don't remember ever saying anything like that. They sneer, is that really the best way you can demonstrate your love? And why not give gifts randomly throughout the whole year? As if such gestures are strictly forbidden on other days of the year. These are the arguments that Valentine lovers will make. They are not. Valentine's Day is just a day designated for us to hold out these offerings and make our love visible. They are the tacky way of depicting something real, even if they depict it inaccurately. They are so brightly colored not because it makes them beautiful, but because it makes them impossible not to see in the season and on the one day that we have designated for thinking about love. This is the argument Valentine's lovers will make. Now, Lovers of Valentine's Day might also argue that most days of the year are unmarked or unremarkable. It is easy on such days to feel love and not to express it in a visible way, or to feel loneliness and mistake it for an ache without an origin. This is because true love is experienced less in the form of sporadic bursts of expressive joy than in the form of a deep and largely undetected peace of mind and in deep feelings in the gut. It is a peace we didn't know we even had until it's gone, and a peace we didn't know we wanted until we find ourselves without it. They may also argue that it is a peace that people who are lonely or desiring of love, both single and those in unfulfilling relationships, notice the absence of on Valentine's Day, because it is a day when our loves are magnified. We are forced to stop and reflect on the uneasiness of living without enough love. Fans of Valentine's Day may argue that the ghost of St. Valentine is not out crashing into otherwise perfect loves with grocery store-bought bouquets to destroy them. He is out whispering to all of us who have neglected our hearts for much of the year that we might benefit from checking in to see if they're as broken as we left them. A Valentine's Day lover may also make the case that holidays are the punctuation in what would otherwise be an unbearable slog through the undetermined number of years most people spend on this planet. It is time to think of Valentine's Day not as the most romantic day of the year, but as the day we gather for the communal ritual of examining love, however painful it may be, because we have decided that it is valuable, worth stopping for, and worth suffering for too. It is a holiday that finds us in the middle of winter, when the cool comfort of autumn feels a century behind us, and the arrival date of spring's shining sun is as knowable as the interior life of a groundhog. It is from this inhospitable landscape that we are asked not to be in love, or to actively seek love, or even to celebrate love. We are merely asked to acknowledge love's presence in our worlds, and perhaps believe in the promise of its warmth. So, there's two sides to this, folks. You know where I stand on Valentine's Day. I just spoke to what a lover of Valentine's Day might say or think, which, hey, everyone's entitled to feel the way they feel, and there are some good points in that. So where do you stand on Valentine's Day? You know, the poll said 92% of you thought it was a bullshit holiday. Maybe you want to reconsider. Let us know how your Valentine's goes on Friday in the show notes. Now, speaking of love, could you be in a romantic relationship or even a marriage with a person with opposing political beliefs? I read an interesting article the other day about this topic, and I thought I'd share it with you since we are on the topic of love and Valentine's Day. Now, if you're single and you log on to Tinder, now don't be doing that if you're married, and soon enough you'll see a bio that includes the version of the line, "Trump supporters swipe left." Most people are open to dating someone who doesn't share their political beliefs, but views on specific issues and personalities, such as the president, can be deal breakers. This week, the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative-leaning think tank in Washington, released a survey of U.S. adults taken in January on how politics is changing dating and relationships in the Trump era. Here are 5 fascinating takeaways from this survey. Among political issues, abortion is the biggest deal breaker. When given a list of issues and asked how difficult would it be to date someone who does not share your own views on the following, 24% said it would be impossible to date someone with differing views on abortion. Another 44% said it would be either somewhat or very difficult, and 32% said it would be too difficult or wouldn't be difficult at all. The issue is more of a deal breaker for women than for men, and more so for Republican women, 38%, than it is for Democratic women, 27%. Other issues that were deal breakers were religious freedom. 20% said it would be impossible to date someone who didn't share their religious views. LGBT rights, 19%. Slightly fewer said the same thing about gun rights and gun control, coming in at 16%. Climate change, 15%. Immigration, 13%. And affirmative action, 12%. Large majorities of strong Trump supporters and strong opponents won't date someone with a different view of him. Republicans are more open to dating someone who disagrees with them on Trump than Democrats are. The AIE survey conducted by YouGov found, however, Trump is mostly an obstacle for those with strong feelings for him. Of those with very unfavorable views of the president, 83% wouldn't date someone with a different view. Among those with a very favorable view of Trump, 59% wouldn't date someone who disliked the president. Aligning on whether to have children and whether someone smokes are bigger concerns than sharing politics. For most American adults, sharing political views with a romantic partner isn't a priority. Less than one-third said politics is one of the most important things or very important to have in common. The two most important traits in significant others were that they have similar views on having children, 59% said it was at least very important, and that they do not smoke, 58%. The rest of the characteristics, ranked from most to least important, were shares religious beliefs or views about religion, 39%, shares political views, 31%, shares racial or ethnic background, 25%, pays attention to politics, 19%, and has at least a 4-year college education, 16%. However, if someone highlights their politics in their online dating profile, that's a big signal. About 6 in 10 online daters who mention their political views in a dating profile say that it's important to date someone with similar views. Most Americans who are married or in a committed relationship didn't know that what their partner's politics were before they started dating. If you met before the dating app started, it's likely you don't know where a first date fell politically. Only 14% of those married or in committed relationships said they were aware of their partner's politics before they started dating. But nearly half did learn this information early on in the dating process. The survey found that younger adults, ages 18 to 29, are much more likely than older adults to know a potential partner's beliefs before they enter into a serious relationship. Once you're married, politics is rarely a source of contention. Most married Americans, 69%, said their partner has the same political affiliation. And even if they don't, there are plenty of other more pressing issues to fight about. The survey found that American couples are more likely to argue about money, household chores, than they are to fight about politics. So, folks, let me end this Valentine's podcast by saying, despite all this hating on Valentine's Day I did, I'm ironically a believer in love. However, the commercialization of all holidays just isn't working anymore. Sure, it generates billions of dollars, and I'm sure some economists can trace that back to more jobs, country security, etc. But we're being negatively impacted as well. In my opinion, the corporate takeover of Valentine's Day is doing far more harm than good for our relationships today, and more importantly, our relationships tomorrow. So, folks, to prove I'm not a complete Valentine's Day Grinch, I put together a playlist of love songs called My Malarkey Valentine for your listening pleasure. I'll post the link from Spotify on our Facebook page this week to get you in the mood, even if you hate Valentine's Day. Maybe you play some love songs when you get home or in the car, get you in that loving mood. Maybe it'll turn you in from a Valentine's Day hater to a lover. Who knows? Maybe you'll join that 8% in the poll that said you like Valentine's Day. Maybe my Malarkey Valentine's Day playlist can make you switch teams over to the loving Valentine's side. But either way, no matter whether you're single, married, dating, I hope you have a pressure-free and fun-filled Valentine's Day, whether you love it or hate it. Pretty much, even if you hate it, you're going to be doing some shit on Friday night, whether you love it or hate it. So let's make the best of it. Put on My Malarkey Valentine playlist in the car when you're taking your significant other. Get in the mood. I'm going to put that link up to that playlist and get you all in the mood. So where are we found, folks? Come on, you know by now, but you're going to tell everybody, right? You're going to tell everybody that A Bunch of Malarkey is available on all major podcast platforms. Now, people say, what's a podcast platform? You're going to tell them. You can find A Bunch of Malarkey on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Radio Public, Radio.com, Stitcher, Castbox, YouTube, or if you have one of those Echo devices, just say, Alexa, play the podcast A Bunch of Malarkey, and she will play the most recent episode. If you want to go back to previous episodes, just say, when she starts playing the most previous episode, just say, Alexa previous or Alexa back, and she will go back one episode, and you can keep doing that. Thanks to those who are patrons of the show, who make a monthly donation to the show to keep us ad and sponsor free, because you don't want any more commercialization, because you have enough of that with Valentine's Day. Thanks to those who are patrons of the show. Now, how do you become a patron of the show? It's easy. Go to Patreon, patreon.com/a bunch of malarkey. Fill out a quick registration and make your monthly donation to the show. $1, $2, $3, $5. If you're really, really well off and you really love the show, whatever you want to donate. But we have quite a few patrons now, and that helps us pay for our monthly hosting fees, printing fees, all kinds of stuff that keeps the show going. And again, ad and commercial free, because we don't want to do that to you. You know how to get in touch with us, a bunch of malarkey podshow at Gmail. Call us 706-406-8212. Don't forget, the mutant of the week this week, we have the Ho Hustling Hamburglar versus the Parolee Payroller, so make sure to vote. Poll goes up on Monday and on Saturday. So, folks, no matter what you're doing on this Valentine's Day, whether you're staying home and getting some Chinese delivered or some pizza, whether you're going out and spending $300 on a shitty 5-course meal, or taking your significant other out to the movies, you still have to beware, because the mutants don't rest. Because it's a shit show out there. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a love-filled week, folks, and we will catch you next week. Take care, everybody.